Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Farrah, and in today's video I'm going to be chatting with you guys about all the books that I read in October. So October was a really interesting reading month for me. I didn't get to as many things that I would like to do, but I did have a few really great books that I wanted to talk about real quickly. So I was able to get to 5 books this month. Let's see if I can give you a couple stats real quickly. So out of those 5 books, 2 of them were physically read, 1 was an ebook, and 2 were audio. As far as reading what I owned, I would say 2 of them I owned and 3 of them I got from the library. As far as ratings, I had 1 3-star, 1 3.5, 2 4s, and 1 5-star pick. And as for challenges, I participated in 2 of my own challenges and then 2 booktube challenges. So the ones that were my own, I participated in honoring Latinx Heritage Month. So I read 1 book that was written by a Latinx author. And then my Agatha Christie challenge, where I'm trying to read all of Agatha Christie's books, I did read 1 book from her. And then for reading events, I participated in Occult Detective October as well as Victober. And some of those books overlapped within the 2 challenges, but we'll get into that in a minute. As far as the genres go, I read 2 gothic horrors, 2 mysteries, and 1 YA fantasy. So the first book I want to talk about really briefly, because I'm going to have a separate vlog on this, is my Agatha Christie pick for October, which was Hallowe'en Party. This book was written back in 1969. It's fairly short. It's under 200 pages, and this is part of the Hercule Poirot series that she has, and this is one of the later ones. So I think this is book 41. I'm not sure how many are in the series. I think it's maybe up to the high 40s, but this was one of her later books. So just quickly, the book focuses on the investigation of the murder of a 13-year-old girl named Joyce, who was drowned in a bucket of apples at a kid's Halloween party. So the premise right away is pretty grim, but it's told very lightly. No horrific details or anything. Golden Age cozy mystery right here. So the only thing I really want to say about this was that I felt as though it definitely probably is not one of her better books. I'm only a newbie, so I've only read 2 other before this, and I thought the writing was a little bit slow. The first half of the book I had a really hard time getting into. I felt as though it was very repetitive, and the overall mystery, the overall twist was kind of anticlimactic, and I didn't really get the motives of the killer. So, a little bit of a disappointment, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't really a joyful read. I wasn't eager to pick it up, but I'm glad I read it. On a positive note, I thought that the character of Mrs. Oliver was really great. I'm just gonna read you her description really quick because it just made me laugh. So we have Mrs. Adrienne Oliver, a detective novelist with an imaginative, if untidy mind. She finds her taste for apples ruined by a child's murder. So she was fun. I liked the dialogue that she had. Her and Hercule Poirot had a great kind of banter going on. And I did like the delightful mustache chit-chat that Poirot had. And I could see some of that Agatha Christie charm within the writing that I think I'm going to really enjoy in books to come. So I think I will have already posted my Agatha Christie wrap-up. If you're a fan or if you're interested in more of my thoughts about this, I will leave that information for you. But as far as I don't really recommend this unless you're a completionist and you want to just read all of them like I am. And this was a multiple point of view novel told in the 3rd person. Okay, the next book I read, this qualified for Victober, and this was called The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. This was my first Poe anything that I remember. I think I read The Raven, but I don't remember it. I'd have to reread it again. But this is a very short story. It's about 25 pages if you get the ebook. And Fall of the House of Usher was written in 1839, I believe. So this was another Victorian-based short story. This was pretty interesting as well. It was very confusing at first, and it tells the story of this unnamed narrator who gets a letter from his childhood friend named Roderick, who tells him to please come and visit because his twin sister Madeline is not doing well, and he just needs help and he needs company and comfort. So the narrator goes to this mansion that has been owned by the Usher family for many, many years. Right away, it's very dilapidated and run down, just a very spooky vibe. And Madeline is really sick. Nobody knows what's wrong with her, but she's really, really not doing well. And she's walking around in a trance. She's just kind of possessed. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with her. Roderick is also suffering. He's slowly losing his mind. All of these weird, haunty things start happening with the castle. And then as you can tell with the title, it doesn't have a great situation. So I did enjoy it. I thought that it was a little confusing, so I read it first. And then I watched this summary and analysis video by Thug Notes, which cracked me up, but it really, really explained it better for me. So I reread it again and I got a lot more out of it. So really enjoyed that. I read that in preparation to read the short story What Moves the Dead, which will be in my November wrap-up, and also to watch the Netflix show called Fall of the House of Usher. So I'm glad I read it, and I'm definitely interested in checking out more of Edgar Allan Poe's works in the future. All right, next I want to talk about Dracula. I'm just going to keep this really brief. I did a non-spoiler chat in a reading vlog that I'll post below, and that one is time-stamped, so if you just want to know about Dracula, you can skip to those parts. Then I also made a more detailed spoiler review also, which I'll leave below. But Dracula, this one was great. I really enjoyed this. This took me about 2 weeks to read, and I read it right in the beginning of the month. This one qualified for Occult Detective October as well as Victober, and I believe it was written back in 1890. So for Dracula, we're following multiple point of views told in the third person point of view. It's an epistolary type of novel, so the whole story is being told in the forms of letters and journals and different notations and logs. So that was really interesting. I loved that and how it was written like that. I really enjoyed the characters. I felt like this was much more of a mystery, a slow burn mystery novel exploring what Dracula's doing, rather than a novel that was focused on Dracula and more of the horror aspects. So I did feel like it was more of a Victorian mystery with some horror elements to it. But I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it both on audio and ebook, and it was a great experience. And I'm excited to check out, somebody had commented or mentioned something about Daily Dracula, which is the story that's told perfectly chronologically in order of everything that happened. This book was mostly linear timeline, but it did have a few jumps back and forth. So I will definitely be checking out Daily Dracula as well. Okay, and next we have Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews. And this is book 1 in her occult detective series called the Kate Daniel series. And this book was written back in 2007. It's not too long. This one is only about maybe 250 pages or so. This book is told in the first person point of view, and we only get the main character, Kate Daniel's point of view. So I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. It had its dark moments, but it had some great horror in there. It had some great detective work. The main character of Kate Daniels is really funny. She has a great dry sense of humor. There's a tiny bit of romance in there, which was fun. The world building was really interesting. We're living in a world where the technology and magic kind of fluctuates between each other like a switch. So one moment the magic will be all around and people can use it, and then the next minute the magic fades away and the technology comes back. So my only critique about this was that I felt like I was being dropped in the middle of a series. I had a lot of questions. I didn't really understand a lot that was going on, but I have heard that's kind of how it is. And the second book really helps to explain everything, and that the series only gets better. So really, really love this. If you're looking for an urban fantasy and you've never heard of this, I highly recommend it. A lot of people that have read the whole series absolutely rave about this. And paranormal romance / urban fantasy has always been a genre that I have enjoyed reading, and I think it's great as a palate cleanser in between some of the heavier reads or the classics that I'm trying to get through. So I'll definitely be going on with this series, but I'm probably going to wait until the Read What You Own challenge is over, unfortunately. But I really am looking forward to reading more by her. And I give this one 4 stars. And my final book of October was one that I read for Latinx Heritage Month. This was a complete impulse read for me. I saw it mentioned on 2 channels, like within a day or 2 of each other, and I just thought the premise sounded really fun. So in the Sunbearer Trials, this is written by Aiden Thomas, and this is basically like Percy Jackson meets the Hunger Games. So this book is very heavily influenced on Mexican culture and primarily Aztec-inspired mythology. So we're following this world where there's the sun is like our main god, and then we have all these god and goddesses that came from the sun. So we have the goddess of birds, we have the goddess of water, the goddess of love, the god of earth, the god of bad luck, the god of thunder, you know, all of that. And then we're focused on all their kids. So their kids are all demigods or semidioses, which have a human parent and a god parent, a parent that's a god. And we're following Teo, who is the child of the goddess of birds. And he has some special powers where he can communicate with birds, and he has wings and he can fly. And there's a trial that happens every 10 to 15 years where all of these children are elected, similar to the Hunger Games, to participate in 5 different trials that are challenging in different ways. The winner of the trial is now called the Sunbearer, and the person that comes in last is kind of the sacrifice. They have to give up their life in order to bring this energy and sun energy back to protect their world from these other gods called the Obsidians. There's different levels within the kids. We have the golds, which are really the kids of the stronger gods and goddesses, like the goddess of fire, the kids of fire and water and thunder and weather and things like that. And then we have Teo, who are called the Jades. They're more of the secondary semidioses that their powers may not be as extravagant. So spoiler alert, not a spoiler, but Teo gets chosen, and he's one of the few second level Jade semidioses that have to participate with the golds, which are like, they've been training their whole lives for this, and you know, it's crazy. So they have the trial, and it's really, really fun. And what I loved about this book so much was that the writing was excellent. Aiden Thomas did a phenomenal job of creating this beautiful world, lush and colorful and really detailed, but very easy to follow. The characters were amazing. Each character was so well thought up and fleshed out and physically described really well, so you had a good image of what they all looked like. Their powers were really well defined. The trials themselves were all really unique and interesting, and the relationships that were building between the characters I really, really loved. The banter between 2 of the characters, Teo and Nia, the daughter of the god of earth, was hysterical. I love how gender roles were switched around a little bit. We have one of the strongest members was Nia, who has the earth powers. There's also some wonderful gender representation in here. Our main character is transgender, and one of the characters is non-binary, but it's just treated as so normal. Their whole culture, being accepting of anybody's gender and sexuality, is completely normalized. There's no angst. It's just a beautiful world where everybody is treated equal and nobody is made to feel any different for who they really are. So if you're interested in reading this, I highly recommend it. The audio was fantastic. The physical, I read it on ebook and audio. Both were fantastic. Transgender Awareness Week is coming up November 13th through the 19th. This would be a great pick if you're interested in celebrating that or supporting the transgender community. So I really, really enjoyed this. This was one of my favorite books of the year. YA fantasy can be a hit or a miss, but there's something just really, really special about this book that I absolutely loved. And I'm excited because it's a duology, so I think they're going to be coming out with the second book hopefully sometime in 2024. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And this is why BookTube is so fun, because I never would have known about this book if I hadn't seen XO Joe's channel and MJ Reads and Writes. So I'll leave their channel names below as well. So that wraps up my month of reading. If you're interested in any more detail about any of these, I have 2 reading vlogs, which I did. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for your really, really sweet and kind comments on my most recent reading vlog. I think that is the most people that have ever watched one of my vlogs and left me a comment, and each and every one of your comments was so sweet and uplifting, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and thank you again for watching. I hope you guys have a great reading month ahead in whatever events you're participating in, and I will see you in my next video.